So we bought a house, an 1879 mansion in desperate need of love with a legendary and unique history and a community to match. Hi all, get ready for quite a ride today. We're going to follow Austin and his demo team through demo, and then we're going to meet with Nicki and our consulting special guest Kaleb Higgins from Second Empire Strikes Back about how to save some damaged 1879 medallions, and then you'll join me as we attempt to lower those gigantic medallions and save them. So you're definitely going to want to stick around to the very end on this one.
Down here on the main level, we took it down to the studs. So as you can tell, we got all our plaster off our walls and ceilings. And throughout the process, we went ahead and built fireplace covers to cover up our fireplaces as we demo to help preserve them. Another thing we had to do was try to work around our medallions. We had to do some fine-tuned demo right around here to help kind of avoid our pocket doors so we can keep preserving them. And here, virtually the same story. This right here is the room where the medallion got some damage to it. So what actually happened in here was when we started doing the medallions, working around them, we started upstairs and I had showed the guys how to cut around it without actually affecting the plaster mold itself. But amongst the chaos where one day there was, I think, 9 of us out here all demoing at the same time, somebody got up there and they just started pretty much hitting around it with a hammer to avoid the medallion instead of properly cutting close to it. So in this scenario, our plaster mold looks salvageable, but it definitely requires an expert to figure out how to piece it back together. Now at this point, I'd suggest we call Kaleb Higgins with the Second Empire Strikes Back to help us figure out the situation here.
Welcome, Kaleb Higgins. Thank you so much for coming. This is Kaleb Higgins from Second Empire Strikes Back. He has his own amazing show doing his own restoration of his Second Empire house. Ours is the Italianate. So it's the same Victorian era, but just different styles of it, which is fun. But I wish you were here on better circumstances. Unfortunately, our medallions did get a little damaged in the demolition. On this one here, the plaster medallion is sitting on lath that is no longer supported in certain areas. So it's starting to slip. So we had our guys come in and build a box around it to hold it up. The other one has 2 chunks missing out of it, and it's also falling as well. So the first person I thought of was Kaleb. For me, I want the safest, and because I don't want this to come down on Grandma.
Of course not. And I think you guys have taken the right first step. That being said, the largest medallion or decorative piece of plaster I've taken out for my house is about yay big. Mm-hmm. This is a little different. The first thing that comes to my mind, though, would be a drywall lift.
Okay.
I think that seems about right. I mean, I imagine my medallion that I have weighs probably about 45 pounds. This one's probably closer to 80.
Yeah.
But those drywall jacks are usually up to like 200, I think.
Right.
So you should be able to take it all down with the cradle and everything, I imagine.
Okay.
Those have a pretty wide thing. If you lock them upright, I think that should work. Mm-hmm. And then the longest, flattest pry bar you can find, and just take each piece of lath as you go. Mm-hmm. Luckily, it seems like we only have 3 beams here, so there shouldn't be a lot holding it. So again, really good on you guys doing this. But when you start pulling plaster, everything's kind of attached. I mean, these are glued up with plaster onto plaster.
Right.
And when you start, the demo guys, I'm sure they were pulling on lath a bit hard. Obviously, they were, enough to snap these.
Yeah.
That rocked it loose for sure. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely good that you guys re-secured it and stopped that process before it got worse.
Yeah.
One thing on a positive note that I can say is these are much, much, much easier to get clean and pretty again once they're on the ground. once they're on a table and you're not working like this, it's a lot more pleasant to work on.
That's what I think when we had the conversation on what do we do from here on out, it was, in my mind, they have to come down. I don't want anyone to shake it loose or to do anything else. So if it's already loose, I want to bring it down, clean it up. I'd love to take a mold of all of them.
It could be quite advantageous to bring them down, clean them. It does help. But then, get them ready for, molding, take a mold of it. And then as opposed to putting the original back up, which they're heavy. And since you guys are doing a drywall up here, a drywall ceiling, right? Maybe it'd be better to run them in a resin or a plastic. It's much lighter. If anything were to ever fall, it won't come with it because it'll be screwed to the beams directly. And it'll be about 10 or 20 pounds versus 80 pounds of plaster. But I mean, you could also use this now as a piece of art in your home. So you could display it over one of the mantles or something like that. And once it's against the wall, it's not going to go anywhere, but you need to secure it, of course, to some kind of frame. But I think that's a good reuse of them. You do have the potential for that. And also, if you mold it, your guys' audience too, if they're looking for a medallion, you could sell them a recreation of your medallion, which could also help with funds, but it also allows people to have more options when they're redoing their homes. Especially if they're from this era, which I believe is 1870s, right? Late
1879.
So very late 1870s. But it's good because it is a piece. It was probably created by a craftsman here in St. Louis. There are probably other homes that had this exact same medallion at some point. There are owners that are probably looking for them. So, you could be doing a service, your mistake or your problem could turn to a solution for somebody else.
What else can we do with this? So if it's by sharing it with other people, being an old house lover, I know that there are people out there that are looking for things exactly like this. And if I can help bring it to their homes so that way they can have a similar thing, that would be amazing.
It's super helpful. I mean, the community around the old house, old house community, I guess, they're really, really kind. They have no problem sharing tips and things like this. And it seems like a very giving community. So, my little story with when I was putting mine back together was really, really devastated for about a week. But then watching it or messing with it, I happened to watch a documentary about Notre Dame. When they were restoring the cathedral. The fact that they were, that this generation is now able to get up and close and personal with this history and really understand how it's constructed. We'll actually know more about it, and it's a problem, but it can become an opportunity to learn and to really appreciate the craftsmanship that went into making these things. So, there's a little silver lining here, is what I'm saying.
There's so much detail in it that if we were to bring it down and put it on the wall, you would actually have more appreciation for it. So,
they're really beautiful.
The gallery wall.
And they won't do anything but complement the house.
How does the process of actually molding it work?
So I've never done it myself. But I actually used to work on a reality TV show called Face Off, which is on the Sci-Fi Network, which is all about special effects makeup. So I've seen plenty of people run silicone molds. Essentially, there's a company called Smooth On. I would order products from them. That's what they all use, and that's what they're all excited about. If it's good enough for monster masks, it's probably good enough for this. So you could pretty easily, I think, do that. No, but I don't think this is, not doable. This is well within the scope of things people have done in the past. And I think with a little bit of ingenuity, it can be done. It can be done safely. And maybe more importantly, it can be done without further damage.
Okay, so this evening, we're about to do something very delicate and hopefully successful. We're gonna bring down this gigantic medallion and hopefully not hurt it any more than it's been hurt now. And the idea is to get it down to the ground so that we can put it onto a platform that spins and do a 3D scan of it. Barring that, we could do a mold once we get it down. This one is not going to be able to stay up, but the idea would be to make a lighter version that's exactly the same copy, a copy of it, and then put that up and perhaps reuse this medallion on the wall or some part of art that we could use to show what it looked like when it was up on the ceiling. So we don't want to lose anything, and this is going to be a delicate operation, and I'm very nervous about it. This is Austin Frank. He is here to help me try to figure out how to extract these medallions and lower them. Austin, talk to us about your plan.
Alrighty, so my big game plan for it is, whenever we initially built this structure to temporarily hold it up, we did it in a way to where all we really have to do is take out 2 screws, then it should be 2 screws and 2 screws on that side, to the point where this whole wood structure will come down. Now the goal is, before we take down that wood structure that's supporting it underneath, we're gonna want to get our drywall lift in place, so it's pressed tight up against the wood structure, have somebody holding that in place, and then whenever we get that drywall lift to hold the wood structure, obviously disconnect it, but keep it firm against the medallion while we go ahead and go behind it with some scrapers and try to disconnect the old plaster medallion from the lath behind it. Then,
that's the question. Will it let go? I think is our question on that. But I love the plan. Honestly, I think it's the best.
Yeah, it is a tough question to answer. I think we're gonna find out one way or the other, though.
We sure will. All right, well, let's get going.
All right, let's do it.
All right. Yeah, so just to describe what we're seeing up here, there's multiple layers to this problem. There's the lath that's connected to the beams here. It's then got plaster smeared all over it. A lot of surface area on this lath. So the plaster squeezes up in between it. It's hard to pop it out. So there's also then this medallion that's been stamped up onto the plaster. And that medallion is really just held there by almost the gluing action, the molecular action between the 2 layers. Our theory is that if we can introduce air in between the 2 layers of plaster, it would start a bubble that would then allow this medallion to let loose from its place up here and fall nicely into this soft cradle that we have propped up under this drywall lift. So the wire, you probably can see it, it's coming from that wall there, I think. It's coming across between these 2 beams and down through the center. The center has a hole in it that probably it was likely molded that way or drilled after the mold was done. And it goes up straight up through the plaster and then all the way up through the lath. So the question is there a fastener in here somewhere that we can't see? Is it just purely glued, essentially, just plaster to plaster? Or is there some other connector in here, perhaps a reinforced piece of metal that's been molded into both sides? Frankly, people, we don't know. Let's get in there, and we're gonna have to put something in between those things and start the process of having it release from the ceiling to know what we can see here. So this is the lath, actually above here are the beams. Coming down the lath, that's where the plaster was smeared onto. That plaster is a bit different consistency than, a lot different consistency than the plaster that was used for the medallion. It's more of a cement feeling thing. It's got horsehair in it. You can see that sticking out. Sorry guys. And then below that, we have a cleaner plaster that the medallion was molded out of. And that is, see this really thin layer right here? That's the glue. That's what's holding the 2 layers together. See how flat that is? That's the suction, basically, that was created. and there was no air in between those two, and it was just holding it up there. Now, we'd like to introduce, you know, a gap between and let it release. So that's the plan.
I think what you noted on the middle is definitely important to think of too.
There's obviously a bar that goes up, you know, a threaded bar that goes up through the middle. Likely is connected to the cross beam in some way. And we're gonna see.
It's crazy. I swear to God, I thought this whole thing was plaster, man.
There we go. We like seeing that.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, some cutters, Grady.
Hey, now, look at that. We really are gonna need some channel locks here. But that really was holding it on, guys.
Yeah.
It's gonna pop right down.
All right, Grady, why don't you get this side? I'll get the other side. Matt, you can be in the middle.
Okay.
All right, nice and easy. Whoever Matt gets ready.
Ready?
Okay. Ready?
Come on down.
I'm looking good.
Keep coming.
Grady, you look good.
You're doing great. You're doing great. This is perfect. Get up here. Oh yeah, just let go. There's 2 more pieces of lath that just need to snap off. Keep going. Yep.
Yeah,
No,
go ahead.
Good. Keep going. We're down. Oh my goodness. We did it. All right, let's talk about this for a second.
So for a second, we should probably first clear an area of where we know we're gonna put it
For
down.
sure. And this one's
Can't tell, is that all the zip ties?
That one's
All right,
not.
could you guys help us pick up, we're just gonna pick up the whole wood structure, I believe. Yes, and just lift it on this wood structure. You guys good?
I got it. Okay, come down. Come down. There you go.
Thank you, Grady.
We on there?
We did it.
It's
One down, one to go. Let's do the same thing. So we just successfully dropped the 2 medallions safely without doing any more damage than was already done. And now the next step is going to be to flip them over carefully in another episode and 3-dimensionally scan them. So we'd like to 3D print them or something like that and put a much lighter version back up, but exactly the same thing. So that was the first step, and it was the most scary part, and we successfully accomplished it. Wow. That was intense, wasn't it? To celebrate successfully getting step 1 of our medallion project completed, they are off the ceilings. We at Legends of Lemp have decided to pre-announce a giveaway we have coming up for our early bird subscribers. Hopefully that's you. So in the next 2 weeks, we will be rewarding a few of you with some very awesome, currently very secret gifts. So we will release more as we get closer to our drawing date over the next few videos. But in the meantime, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, comment, it really does actually help us. And join us again for more Legends of Lemp, the Vahlkamp House.